Well, good morning. Happy Friday. I like Fridays, but actually today I'm taping this on Thursday, and I share that because today is a pretty significant day for the Rhodes family. Um, if you know my story, 50 when I was 50 years old, my wife called me and said that my niece had had a baby, and asked if we could take her. And I just couldn't imagine that at 50 years old that was the right thing to do. And I think my first response was, Debbie, I'm 50 years old. I'll be 68 when she graduates from high school. And today we reached that milestone. She graduated from high school. And God has been faithful during all that time. I mean, it's there's really a scriptural, a biblical, a discipleship lesson here that I've had to learn and continue to learn. And that is that, what God gives us sometimes that seems like a sacrifice are actually oftentimes his blessings in disguise. And, when I thought of raising a little girl at that age, it just seemed maybe hard and maybe almost impossible. But today it is reality and it has been a blessing. And so before I jump into the text, I just want to share with you that, just a personal testimony that when God calls you to do something, when God puts something on your heart, it may appear to be hard and difficult. It may not be what you naturally want to do. But I just got to say, from experience, do what God tells you to do. It is always the path of blessing. And so I pray that maybe that you'll be saying yes to some things that you might naturally not say yes to, and that you'll see the blessing that we've seen as we have tried to obey God in this situation. In Mark today, we come to the text where Jesus is arrested and betrayed. And as I read the passage, I guess there was just one word that stood out to me, and it was the word kiss. Jesus is betrayed by a friend with a kiss. And I just kind of contemplate that. Judas was not an enemy. Judas was one of Jesus' chosen. Judas was a part of the inner circle. Judas was, and we may forget this, but Judas was someone I believe Jesus deeply loved. And so the betrayal with a kiss had to be particularly stinging. Matter of fact, in the Gospel of Luke, when this occurs, the words of Jesus to Judas are, "You betray me with a kiss." I always say that probably nobody gets through this life without having some opposition, without having some enemies, and none of us like that. God has blessed me. I haven't had very many enemies, and I really haven't had a lot of opposition, but I've had a few, and that's been hard, never enjoyable, and that type of thing. But when an enemy attacks you, when an enemy says things about you, you may hate it, but you expect it. But when a friend betrays you, there's something inside of us that just dies. I have known people in marriages who have been betrayed by a spouse. I've walked that journey with some of them. I have seen the hurt, and I've been there to share the tears. And there's just something about being betrayed by somebody you love that is really, really deep. And so when you think of what Jesus did for you, I mean, Jesus loved us enough to die for us, but he also loved us enough to be betrayed for us. And I also like to leave you with maybe a thought about betrayal. It is a horrible thing to be betrayed. And I pray that you don't have to go through that. I hope that maybe you can go through life without ever being betrayed, because I think it is one of the deepest hurts that we can ever experience. But I would say to you, if you have a choice between being betrayed or being a betrayer, be betrayed. Don't ever go down the path of betrayal. That is one of the hardest and deepest hurts that you could give to another person. So I believe God wants us to be faithful people, to be a disciple who continues to follow him. I believe God has great things ahead for you, just like he has for my daughter and he has for me. And I'm excited to see what God's going to do. We're in a pretty difficult time as a nation. There's no getting around it. But I believe that God still has good things in store for his people. And I pray that this day that will be a day of joy and of celebration of the good things that God is doing. God bless. Have a great day.